Alright, we're getting some live visuals from Delhi where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was expected to arrive shortly. These the live visuals of the airport where India is all set to roll the red carpet for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now Mr. Modi will be personally welcoming Israeli Prime Minister at the airport, and these are live visuals that we are getting for you now. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will arrive in Delhi and will kickstart his 6-day visit to India. He'll be meeting the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also on this day, and then tomorrow there'll be a formal welcome for the Israeli Prime Minister at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, following which she would lay a wreath at Rajghat, and then he will be also meeting top businessmen, and he will be having a dialogue at the Hyderabad House which will include a one-on-one discussion with Prime Minister Modi and meetings with the Indian President Ramnath Kovind, then Vice President Venkaiah Naidu were also scheduled for tomorrow, following which Netanyahu, who's also complete by his wife Sarah, will be traveling to Agra to see the Taj Mahal, and then he will return to Delhi to participate in that Tri-Sena dialogue. He will then head to Gujarat on Wednesday where he will be welcomed with a roadshow in Ahmedabad. That roadshow is expected to be an 8-kilometer drive from the airport to the Sabarmati Ashram, and where promised Modi and his Israeli counterpart will be witnessing several innovative technologies, and after that Netanyahu will head to Mumbai where he will meet the celebrities. Another important thing that I may want to point out for our viewers is that today when Prime Minister Modi and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in India, he will be participating in a solemn ceremony at the Teen Murti Memorial, this to pay homage to the soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. Both the leaders will lay a wreath and sign the Visitors Book. This ceremony will also mark the former renaming of the Teen Murti Chowk as the Teen Murti. Now let's tell you more about the Haifa Talk in detail. The 3 bronze statues that we all see in Tel here at the Teen Murti, they represent the Hyderabad, Jodhpur and Mysore Lancers. These were the part of 15 Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade that participated in the First World War and helped Israel get its city of Haifa back in the First World War. So in that, keeping that historic significance in mind, the Teen Murti Marg will be renamed to Teen Murti Chowk today. So soon after Israeli Prime Minister arrives in Delhi at the airport, he will then head to the Teen Murti Marg with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where both the leaders will pay homage to these soldiers who laid down their lives for liberation of the Haifa city in the First World War. To give you more background, the brigade, they said the 15th Imperial Service Brigade, the Cavalry Brigade, carried out the victorious assault on the fortified city of 23rd of September in 1918 during the First World War, and in that there are various historic accounts that narrate the brave valor and sacrifice of each. Sure, these Indian soldiers undertook the assault on the garrison town protected by a joint force of Ottomans, Germany, Austria and Hungary, and the capture of Haifa cleared a route for the Allies to supply to the city through the sea. 44 Indian soldiers, remember 44 Indian soldiers had made the ultimate sacrifice during the liberation of Haifa city in Israel, and on your screens are the live visuals of that red carpet that India has ruled out for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's going to arrive in New Delhi shortly, and Prime Minister Modi is there the airport to welcome his Israeli counterpart, and from there the two will head to Timu tomorrow to pay homage to the soldiers who helped Israel recapture the town of Haifa the First World War, where they were fighting against the Ottomans, Austria, Hungary and Germany. Troops, and 44 Indian troops made that supreme sacrifice for their lives. And these are the latest visuals from the international airport in Delhi, where Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, is shortly going to land, and with his wife Sarah, and then he's on a 6-day visit to India. Today's the first day where he'll be meeting the Prime Minister Modi, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Tomorrow is the day where he will be given a formal welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He'll be meeting, of course, Ramnath Kovind and Vice President Venkaiah Naidu. Then from there you'll head to Agra, where you will visit the historic Taj Mahal. After that he'll go to Gujarat, the richest Prime Minister Modi's home state, and after that the last day of his 6-day visit is Mumbai, where he'll be meeting the top-notch celebrities, the who's who of India's film industry. Weber, India and Israel are very strong allies. One of the closest allies that India has is Israel, and this visit is historic in a lot of ways, but there was a bit of a hiccup in the ties between India and Israel when recently at the United Nations India water against Israel and the US in a resolution which when the US recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the UN, and that in that assembly India voted against Israel, but nothing has sort of dented the ties as far as both countries are concerned, and today we see Israeli Prime Minister kick-starting his 6-day historic visit to India. A lot of things are on the table if you talk about trade, if you talk about defense, if you talk about Bollywood, because at this moment Israel also wants to open its doors to Bollywood, and lately we've seen how gradually thin film industry is making inroads into Israel, and they're shooting their rap because at this moment there are some countries who believe that there are some human rights issues with Israel, which is why there's a boycott movement that's going on against Israel, and at this moment Israel is looking for possibilities that it can explore as far as culture is concerned. Remember, Israel is also done a lot as far as its water conservation is concerned. Its technology is that it's adopted to fix and improve its agriculture, and there you see a live visuals of that aircraft in which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is. He's going to shortly appear in front of the officials, and of course Prime Minister Modi was there to personally receive his Israeli counterpart. Benjamin Netanyahu is accompanied by his wife and he's on a 6-day visit. He's landed at Delhi. These are live visuals that we are getting for you from the national capital New Delhi. This is the first time when Israeli Prime Minister has arrived in India in the last 15 years, and this also comes in the backdrop of Prime Minister Modi's invitation to Benjamin Netanyahu when he visited the country last year, and that is when Prime Minister Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel in the last 70 years, and this is the first time in 15 years when we have an Israeli Prime Minister visit India. These are live visuals that we are getting from New Delhi, from the airport where Benjamin Netanyahu has landed, and Prime Minister Modi is there too. Welcome him with other dignitaries, with other officials, and from here both these leaders will head to the theme multi-month for a special ceremony. It's a historic 6-day visit, and remember it starts today where Prime Minister Modi and Israeli and his Valley counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu will be meeting External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Also in tomorrow is when he gets a formal welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He'll be meeting the President Ramnath, the Vice President Venkaiah Naidu and other dignitaries. Then he'll be participating in a dialogue at Hyderabad House, which will also include a one-on-one discussion with Prime Minister Modi. Netanyahu is accompanied by his wife Sarah, and then they will be traveling to Agra to see the historic Taj Mahal, and then they will return to Delhi to participate in the Raisina dialogue, after which Prime Minister Modi will be accompanying the Benjamin Netanyahu to Gujarat on Wednesday, where he will be welcomed with a roadshow. We are told that road show is expected to be an 8-kilometer drive from the airport to the Sabarmati Ashram. After completing his and about the leg of the visit, he will head to Mumbai, where he will meet celebrities and open in a way doors to Bollywood to Israel. And these are the live visuals that we are getting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to shortly appear. He's at the airport, his aircraft has landed, and the Prime Minister Modi is there to personally welcome his Israeli counterpart. Alright, for more on this I'm joined by Villains Associate Editor Punky Sharma. Father Baki, please give us some more details about Chairman Benjamin Netanyahu was arrived in Delhi. What can we expect from this historic visit? Historic is the word. Certainly he's the first one after a prime ministerial trend to be visiting India, and what a world of difference between these two visits. When Ariel Sharon came, our people from the Israeli government say that they requested he comes to attend a conference, and they requested a half-hour meeting with the then Indian Prime Minister, and he wasn't granted it. That is how relations stood then, and today even Prime Minister is breaking protocol to receive him at the airport, in a sense also responding to the gesture by the Israeli Prime Minister. Remember when Narendra Modi visited Israel just about 6 months back, he was accorded the kind of welcome that has traditionally been kept only for the Pope or The US President so India repaying in the same coin, and this is a visit that is going to pan a lot of areas from technology, defense, strategic cooperation to cultural ties. He's leading a delegation of 130 businessmen. More than 100 Israeli companies want to invest in India, from agriculture to water to cyber security, healthcare security, you name it, and they want cooperation with India, and that is going to be planned. It's a 5-day visit. Several MOUs are expected to be signed on, and in fact technology is an area where Israel and India see a lot of potential going forward. That is something that is going to be focused on. This is the first visit, as we've been saying, of Prime Minister after a gap of 15 years, and Israel and India as partners, as strategic allies, have come a long way since the last visit, of course, and he's made those statements. There's a big delegation waiting, as you can see in those pictures. He is going to be received tomorrow. He of course goes to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You've already outlined the broad itinerary of the Prime Minister of Israel. Tonight he's going to have a private dinner with the inner prime, and there's a certain chemistry of arcana that has always come through between the Indian and the Israeli leaders, and that is perhaps the cement that binds the ties between the two countries, right, Bulky? And as you mentioned about the growing ties between Prime Minister Modi and his Israeli counterpart, remember last year when problems to Modi visited Israel after 70 years, it was that he was the first prime minister visited Israel, and it was being seen as a big development, because nothing of this sort was witnessed lately, and as a lot of people also read away too much in the body language of both the leaders, the bonhomie that was on display especially at the sea, and the language that both the leaders used for each other. They kept referring to each other as the close friend, as friend Benjamin, oh friend Modi. Do you think that this bond, who made this many call it has a bromance, will also help both the countries inch further closer? Oh, we'll have to wait and see. The last time, of course, the even prime minister visited, though the media of course watched every move, and they said that the two prime ministers hugged each other in public 7 times, and that is a rare display of affection between heads of state. So yes, there is a personal chemistry. Prime Minister Modi personally has always appreciated the Israeli model of development. As Chief Minister of Gujarat back in 2006, he was part of a delegation that went to Israel to study what sort of innovation they've done in the field of agriculture, and he was one of the first Indian leaders, first Indian Chief Minister to have invited Israeli companies to do business with people and institutions in Gujarat. So personally he holds them in very high esteem and appreciates the way they circumvent challenges to innovate, and I think of course a personal chemistry, a personal respect and a mutual respect does play a role in the way states go forward. But at the same time he's also shown that when it comes to national interest, for instance India's vote at the United Nations, the Security Council goes on to show that they're not swayed by those things alone. They are going to of course be doing what suits each other, and the defense ties are going to be important to watch, because this comes amid reports that India has cancelled some deals, and that has not gone down very well with these. Really right, Bulky? Please stay on with us. I'm also joined by ions that are made from children on the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And as Bulky and I were discussing about how there's a lot for India and Israel to exchange in terms of innovation and technology, especially how Israel has transformed its agriculture and the way it's devised a lot of techniques to conserve water. And this time around we know that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will present a special gift, which is a water desalination and purification chip. Prime Minister Modi, please give us more details as to how India could imbibe a thing or two from Israel as far as technology is concerned, as soon as we watch these live visuals coming to us from the New Delhi airport, where Prime Minister Netanyahu's aircraft has landed, and we are waiting for the official reception on the tarmac to begin. Together he was a sense of where India Israel are located at the moment as we speak now. This visit in particular, China is high on symbolism and substance alike. This is a visit in celebration of 25 years of establishing diplomatic relations between India and Israel way back in 1992, and also will be a forward-looking visit in the sense that the focus shall be and shall remain firmly on defense and security issues, as also a strategic focus on issues such as agriculture and water. Now these two are subject which are close to Prime Minister Modi's heart. Remember, he has visited Israel many times as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and also most recently and the Prime Minister first ever been Indian Prime Minister in July last year where he visited the projects happening in Israel on agriculture front drip irrigation water conservation desalination so all these issues will remain center stage on this with it as well and if the Minister of External Affairs anything to go by the strategic focus shall remain also as I mentioned on agriculture and water conservation so this is an all-weather relationship as the Israel's ambassador to India mentioned there not so long ago and both leaders look forward to have a forward-looking agenda for the next 25 years as it were in the India-Israel relationship right and Romesh we also know how countries are making a lot of efforts to bolster the ties and especially trade ties the field of oil and gas we're expecting a lot of MOUs will be signed both countries will further enhance their engagement as far as resources are concerned would you please give us more details how Israel and India both could tap into these resources and help each other economically are soon the India-Israel relationships spirals many diverse areas extending from defense and security cybersecurity homeland security to other issues as you mentioned like energy security agriculture water conservation culture traded investments innovation and startups science and technology research and development films so it's an all-encompassing relationship but the focus will be on security issues in terms of water security energy security there is accompanied by 100 strong a business delegation one can expect a number of agreements we sign on the margins of the talks here that'll take place in your live tomorrow the bilaterals and the business summit so clearly the focus will be on the hard issues such as defensive security and also on software such as films culture trade and innovation and startups right Ramshah while we talk about Bollywood also because earlier we had a guest on Rihanna and I had a conversation now with that guest on Bollywood they say that there's a lot of excitement as far as Bollywood is Israel is concerned let me hold on let me just read out this tweet that has come from PMO it says a special welcome for a special visitor Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally receives really promised Prime Minister Netanyahu at Delhi airport last the tweet that's come from PMO Siramesh I was saying that we had a guest earlier on the broadcast and he says that there's a lot of excitement about the Indian film industry in Israel people in Israel want more of tourists coming in from India and vice versa they want more people-to-people contact and how do you see that do you think that people-to-people contact must be enhanced in these services it should not just be restricted to diplomacy and business trips well Arsuna Bollywood or India's film industry has always been a big soft power for India's outreach to countries around the world including Israel and Israel's one wants to tap into that resource or the reservoir of goodwill in terms so to speak and become the next big destination for Indian film producers and actors alike already we've seen one film being shot in Israel that's the film Integral Drive which features in an actor Jacqueline Fernandez and Sushant Singh Rajput there's another crew visited Israel recently to scout for locations for their film this involves actors Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt so a lot of activities happening on the Bollywood front as well remember on the 18th evening a promise Netanyahu will have an outreach for the Bollywood personalities in Mumbai remember that it's the last leg of his with it and he will have an interaction with Bollywood personalities all in a bid to make Israel the next big attraction or definition for film producer to show their films and also to promote Indian films in Israel right Indonesia as we speak about this opening doors to Bollywood let's also give more details about that event that's called the Shalom Bollywood which is being organized for Benjamin Netanyahu and he is going to meet a lot of celebrities and he's going to also explore business opportunities for Indian filmmakers and he's also going to meet some Jewish community leaders and the members of the Indian business communities on the screens now the live visuals from the new Delhi airport where you can see the red carpet being rolled out for Israeli Prime Minister Modi and Minister Modi is there to personally receive his counterpart so that's the latest that we are getting Ramesh when you talk about India and Israel the first thing that comes to mind is a great strong allies and as we've been highlighting how recently at the UN India voted against the US and Israel as far as the Palestine resolution was concerned in their chose to desert its two very strong allies and took a position at the UN. Do you think how did that development pan out? Was that a hitch in ties between both the countries, or as Belki mentioned that nothing happened of that sort and both countries chose to move on and against heel a stamp of stronger ties as far as the two countries are concerned are two not really in terms of optics for privacy anything. I was visit to India it would have come as a big disappointment of sorts for the Israeli delegation the cancellation of the Spike anti-tank guided missile deal and also India's vote for the UNGA resolution against the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by the United States. So clearly the disappointment is there for all to see, but clearly the ambassador for Israel India maintains and insists that it is not the be-all and end-all of the relationship. There's more to India-Israel ties than just that one UNG, a vote or that one particular defense deal. It's all-encompassing, it's multifaceted, and both leaders want to have a forward-looking agenda in the sense that they want to leave all these issues and divergences behind and look forward to another chapter as it were in the unfolding India-Israel ties, and that includes in areas of defense, culture, in tourism, in trade and investment. So clearly everything's on the table when the two leaders meet here in New Delhi tomorrow for the bilaterals followed by the Business Investment Summit. So many such deals can be expected to be signed on the margins of the talks here in New Delhi as well, right Ramesh? I think any moment now we can expect Israeli Prime Minister to arrive with his wife. For the benefit of our viewers of just joining, could you please also detail Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's itinerary for the day today? Well, Arcana, he has landed in Delhi and the first official engagement will be a visit to the renamed Haifat Talk in the heart of New Delhi by both Prime Ministers Netanyahu and Morali. Remember Indian soldiers had played a crucial role in the First World War when the Lancers from three princely states of India had joined the conflict, the war as it were, and that roundabout will now be renamed from Teen Murti Chowk to Haifa Chowk. They'll promise me will travel to his official hotel where Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will call on him and followed by a private dinner hosted by Prime Minister Modi in honor of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife and his official delegation. Later this evening, tomorrow is the operative part of the visit Arcana. They'll begin with a ceremony reception on the forecourt of Russian Badi Bhavan followed by a visit to pay homage to the father of Indian nation at Rajkot, and then the bilateral talks followed by a lunch hosted by the President of India and a business and investment summit later in the evening, and 16th morning he will travel to the Sida Tao from Hell in Agra followed by a speech to be delivered at the Rise in a Dialogue which is hosted by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs on the 17th. He will spend the whole day in Ahmedabad in the state of Gujarat where promised Modi will also be accompanying him. He will visit the Innovation Centre in Ahmedabad and also inaugurate a Centre of Excellence in Agriculture, or at video conference he will land in Mumbai on the evening of 17th and 18th. He will spend the full day in Mumbai. Remember Mumbai was a scene of the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai, and he will visit the Taj Mahal, the iconic Starts Mail Hotel in Mumbai which was destroyed in the terror attacks. He'll be accompanied by baby Motions, now all of 11 years old. His parents were among those who died, the 6 who died at the Habad House in Mumbai. He will be accompanied Plum is Nathaniel till the Habad House and also the Thoughts Mail Hotel which was seen as I mentioned of the 26/11 attacks, and he will return to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem on the 19th morning. So it's a 6th day, was it? It's a fairly long, was it by any standards? He would spend 4 days in 4 different cities, and to my mind it'll showcase India's vast area, land, culture and various dimensions of India's technological advancement over the years in and about Mumbai, New Delhi and also Agra. Right, remain on your screens. We have live visuals from a New Delhi airport where anytime we'll see Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife a pillar in front. The dignitaries from Mr. Modi is there to personally welcome him. Ramesh, as we wait for that moment, let's also talk about the defense ties between the two countries. Remember in 1992 during the Kargil War, nobody can forget how Israel helped India with defense supplies, and then as we spoke about that historic visit by Ariel Sharon, who became the first Israeli Prime Minister to visit. How do you see that trade? How do you see the defense ties between The two countries are kana as we watch these first live visuals of Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu waving to each other and greeting each other on the tarmac of the airport in New Delhi. We are seeing these live visuals of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah descent from the aircraft and travel Somali waiting in attendance on the tarmac, breaking protocol as it were to receive personally the visiting dignitary from Israel from New Delhi Airport. Prime Minister Modi welcoming his Israeli counterpart and his wife who are on the 6-day visit to India, and that handshake and that they have on display which was also visible the last time when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel, and it was talked about. A lot of conversations and editorials were written on that, on those 7 hugs that those are exchanged between our Prime Minister Modi and Benjamin Netanyahu, and on our screens is that moment, that historic moment where the red carpet has been rolled out for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife who are on a historic 6-day visit, and they're both the leaders having a conversation from Asia. As I was talking about the day as it progresses, it's a busy day for both the leaders. I've talked about the defense ties between the two countries. Both countries came closer around 90s when Kargil water in the Kargil war went. Defense ties were bolstered when Israel helped India master with those defense supplies, and today we see Israel is one of the biggest partners as far as weapons are concerned. Indeed, China, even before the two countries established diplomatic ties in 1992, Israel had played a key role, a crucial role, directly or indirectly, in almost all of the wars India's ever fought in the last 70-odd years. Most recently in 1999. Mentioned Israel and Israeli companies played a crucial role in beefing up India's defense procurement and requirements in that conflict with Pakistan. But that said, that the security ties had go back a long way, even before 1992 when the formal diplomatic ties were established, and since then we've seen the India-Israel defense ties grow manifold, exponentially some would say, and today Israel among the top weapons suppliers to India, ranking right at the top along with the US and Russia. But that said, the unique feature of the relationship Arcana is that Israel is also interested and able and willing to transfer technology for India and for Indian companies, and that my mind would be a key area to look forward to in the years ahead, and one several more use can be expected to sign, at least firmed up during this visit between the governments of Israel and India, and also among their private sector companies which will be meeting tomorrow here in New Delhi. Weave this all for a narrative in and commentary about the cancellation of the so-called the Spike anti-tank guided missile, which is more than valued at key of current $1 million, but we're given to understand that there's talks on sealing of clenching the deal between the government on the models of the way India procured the Rafale fighters from DCNS in France, so that the Spike deal is very much on the table. The only change or the only negotiation that needs to be done is for both governments to come to an understanding on the pricing for the procurement of the Spike anti-tank guided missiles. Right, to make sure the two leaders are. Please give us more information. Where are these two leaders headed now? Because I think the Teenwadi Chowk in Delhi will be renamed. Is it just right after this, the moment that he's landed, will he go to Teenwadi Chowk right away, or are there any other plans in the itinerary? Indeed, Arcana, the first official engagement of both Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu will be a visit to the now rechristened shop, which is in the heart of the capital New Delhi, which is about a 10-minute drive from the airport, and we can expect them to visit the shop, which has been renamed in honor in memory of the Indian soldiers in the undivided India before the partition who fought in the First World War on and then in places far removed from their natural habitat, and there were regiments and cavalry regiments from 3 princely states of Hyderabad and including Mysore who landed and contributed and later supreme sacrifice by laying down their lives in defending and fighting for their respective sites in the First World War. That will be the first official engagement, and they'll also sign in the visitors' book kept there on the occasion, and that'll be the first official engagement of Travels Metheny All 16 visit to India, historic in many ways, both high on symbolism and substance alike. Remember, this is only the second ever visit by an Israeli Prime Minister to India since 2003, when Ariel Sharon became the first Israeli Premier to visit India then, and this is the second such visit when Israeli Premier by Travis Netanyahu. India remember promised Modi visited Israel last year in July. That was another historic event. He started visit because that for the first time ever an Indian Prime Minister visited Israel. Before that we saw reciprocal visits by the Prime Minister by the President of India in 2015 and a reciprocal visit by the President Rivlin of Israel to India in 2016. So clearly they've been lot of high profile of VIP of visits taking place between Indian as well of the last several years, and this is just one among a series of visits that one can expect to happen in the days, months and years ahead. For the benefit of our viewers who've just joined us on the broadcast, the latest information is that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife have arrived in India. They are in the national capital. From here they will first go to Clean Muda Chowk, and where the renaming of the Mud Chowk to Teen Murti Chowk will take place. From then on they will be meeting External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. It's a historic visit in a lot of sense, and as a senior correspondent Rame Shah has been telling us how the two countries have inched closer as far as economic defense and the cultural ties are concerned, and Prime Minister Modi was personally at the airport to personally receive Israeli Prime Minister, and from here the two leaders will go to Thin Mud Chowk. And the last time when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel, a lot was talked about the body language, the bonhomie, the chemistry between the two leaders, and since it's a 6-day visit in India we'll see a lot of it, and of course a lot of MOUs are on the anvil which will be signed between the two countries on agriculture and cybersecurity, trade, investments. Rame Shah, for the benefit of our viewers who've just joined us on the broadcast, could you please tell us the significance of this visit as far as India and Israel are concerned? As a 6-day visit he will be from Delhi to Agra, Gujarat, Mumbai. Is there a reason why these locations were picked up? But what is the significance of going to each of these places separately? From Taj Mahal, Ahmedabad, which is Gujarat, this is Prime Minister Modi's home state, and then to move it to meeting the top-notch Bollywood names in Mumbai. Well, to begin with, our China, India and Israel are celebrating 25 years of establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries in 1992. So this year, between January last year and January this year, is the 25th anniversary celebrations of the two countries, and this visit by Prince Netanyahu is a reciprocal visit to India, reciprocating Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel in July last year, and this will culminate in this visit the anniversary celebrations. But that said, in and Israel look to harness their newfound the support among both countries among the people ties, double government ties in areas of defense, security, culture, trade, investments. Innovation is one big issue which Prime Minister Netanyahu and Modi are expected to discuss in the days ahead, especially in terms of harnessing their youth potential, the demographic dividend as it were between the two countries, especially in the time in areas of research and development in science and technology innovation, and which is why we're seeing both leaders plan to visit Ahmedabad, where they will visit the iCreate set up, the innovation technology hub which encourages innovation and startup technologies in both Israel and India. So clearly it's a multifaceted relationship, and both leaders hope to have a forward-looking agenda that they'll remain true for the next 25 years as it's but in the relationship, right? Rame Shah, a lot has been written and spoken about how Israel turned around its agriculture, how Israel completely transformed its techniques as far as water conservation is concerned. And do you think it's important, especially when India too is struggling with a gradient crisis? Every day we see headlines of how farmers are suffering in India. There's an agrarian crisis. So do you think that could be the turning point for Eden and Israel, especially India could take a leaf or two from how Israel has transformed its great agriculture and innovation techniques? Indeed, picture this arcana. Israel is a country of just 8 million people as compared to India. India's population is burgeoning by the day, and in spite of that demographic handicap in terms, they have been successful in harnessing agriculture technology in water harvesting, water desalination, in irrigation. So this it's an area which of interest when they're immensely agriculture and water, and Prime Minister Modi in particular approaches these two areas from a strategic perspective. strategic lens as it were, and Prime Minister Modi has been a regular visitor to Israel when he was the chief nurse from Gujarat, and he was always focusing on agricultural issues, water conservation, and India, by the way, hopes to have a national water conservation campaign going forward, from which Israel can be expected to play a very crucial role in the days ahead. On the agriculture front, China and India have set up 28 centers of excellence all over India in 11 states. 22 of them have been set up and 6 more are on the anvil, and this essentially straddles in a hockey culture in an area fruits in the hearing of water harvesting, drip irrigation, so inefficiency. So these are areas which are of immense importance to India, and India sees Israel as a valuable partner in these two areas, right? And interestingly, a 130-member delegation is accompanying their Israeli Prime Minister, and these constitute businessmen from 102 Israeli companies, so a lot of focus will be on investment and how to boost economic ties between the two countries. Remember, if you take a closer look at the statistics and figures over the last 25 years, a bilateral trade between the two countries has increased manifold from $200 million to more than $4 billion, and especially at this time when both countries are inching closer as far as bolstering the economic and defense ties are concerned. So this also marks the tectonic shift because this visit is seen as historic in a lot of ways, and especially if you look at investment, then these businessmen who are accompanying the Israeli Prime Minister will have a lot to offer on the plateau. Apart from that, as far as the trade ties are concerned, a major focus will be on cooperation in the technology sector. That also is being watched by a lot of people because MOUs between the two countries as far as technology is concerned is being watched by world leaders, the world fraternity, journalists, businessmen, investors. First, we receive Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. This is a historic visit in many words, in a sense of the term, high on symbolism and substance. We watching these visuals once again of Prime Minister Modi walking in person to receive Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. Travis Netanyahu is only the second Israeli premier to visit India in the last 15 years. Remember, Ariel Sharon became the first Israeli Pinny to visit India in 2003, and this is only the second ever visit by an Israeli premier to India by Travis Netanyahu, who is now in New Delhi on a 6th-tier visit to India. And on the left-hand side of the screens are live visuals coming to you from the now rechristened Shocked in New Delhi, where the two premiers will jointly attend the first official engagement of their 6-day visit. Remember, Shocked has been renamed after Haifa, which was a scene of the First World War in which Indian soldiers from 3 different princely states of India had fought and made the supreme sacrifice of laying down their lives, and the two premiers will be, and as we sing the screens, they are about to reach the Shocked in New Delhi on the first official engagement of Prime Netanyahu's 6-day visit to India. Alright, these are live visuals coming to you from the theme movie Shock in New Delhi, where Prime Ministers Netanyahu and Modi have arrived. As we are seeing these live visuals, the theme multi-choke will be represent the multi-shock. Remember, Indian soldiers from the undivided India before partition had played a crucial role in the First World War in Haifa, where soldiers from 3 princely provinces had fought and laid down their lives in defense of their position. So Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu will visit this square in New Delhi and pay tribute to the fallen heroes and soldiers of undivided India. Remember, this will be their first official engagement of Fathers Netanyahu 1622 India, the second time in his really premier is visiting India, right? So these are live visuals that you are getting from the Teen Murti Shock and also Damage. This is a very significant moment considering the growing closer ties between India and Israel. What is the significance of renaming an important landmark in India on a city that's actually based in Israel? Indeed, as I mentioned, Muhammad, this visit is high on symbolism and substance alike. This is the first official engagement of the two premiers at the Teen Murti Choke, which will be rechristened officially as Teen Murti Chowk. Chowk is an Hindi word for square, and this has immense historical significance. was the scene of one of the locations of the First World War where soldiers from undivided India played a crucial role and laid down their lives, and the two premiers will officially take part in a ceremony here to pay tribute to the fallen soldiers of undivided India, and they were all the sign in the visitors' book on the occasion. This will be their first official engagement of Prime Minister Netanyahu's 68th visit to India, only the second time an Israeli premier has visited India in the last many decades. Absolutely indeed. To this of course is a historic moment in many ways. What you have the three lances at that particular landmark represented three bronze statues of the Teen Murti represent the herd about the Jodhpur, and also the Mysore Lancers were a part of the 15th Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade had carried out a victorious assault in the fortified city of Haifa for the 23rd of September and year 1918 during the First World War. Now of course this is of course one of the key battles, as the Allied forces had retaken the city of Haifa from the joint forces of the Ottomans, the Germans and the Austria-Hungary forces. Now there was a clear part which had been played by the Indian soldiers, and this chop which of course till now had been known as the Teen Murti Chowk will not be renamed as the Teen Murti. So we expect the premiers of the two nations, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also the Israeli Premier Netanyahu, who will of course be coming here as this talk will be renamed and rechristened to point towards the growing closeness between the two nations. And also joining us on the broadcast we have got Mr. Alan Thinkers, who the ambassador and former chief of staff for foreign ministers from Israel. Mr. Pincus, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast. Now this is of course a historic visit of Benjamin Netanyahu, who is here in India. How do you read the significance of this? Is this a relationship between the two nations which is now going to get only better and better from here, considering the fact in the past India had been a little shy of projecting itself as a very close ally of Israel, but now the reality is of course drawn between the two nations and they now see as very close allies. I hope you can see me and hear me. It's the sound because we can see you and hear you. Please do go ahead. But I subscribe to everything you said in your introduction. I think this relationship will develop, will evolve. I think it will strengthen a long time. As you said throughout your show, it is a visit of both symbolism and substance, and I think this transcends whomever is prime minister in either country. The common denominators, two common interests and the common areas of cooperation, not technology, cybersecurity, agriculture and perhaps others that haven't been explored yet, side above and beyond defense. Of course I think this will expand. Yes, this relationship had a different character in the last several decades, but then again India was in a different place, the world was in a different place, and for that matter Israel was in a different place right now throughout the 60s and 70s, and also consumed, considering the fact that earlier it was essentially defense ties and cooperation in dealing with terror that India had been interested in Israel, but now the entire parity paradigm on basis of which the relationship will be taken forward has changed. Well, fear of course seeing is the closer ties which perhaps Israel is trying to tap into by having this great event with Bollywood actors. How do you see this going forward? Is this a projection of soft power of India in Israel, and also how is India viewed in the state of Israel? Well, India viewed positively for its sheer size, cultural diversity and other attributes of Indian society and all its facets right. Look, obviously there is an inherent asymmetry between India and Israel. India is big in both size, population and economic power, and emerging as one. India will surpass China in terms of population within the next 40 to 50 years, as you know that, and Israel remains a small country at 2.6 million. Stay on this. Let me interrupt you that the ceremony for renaming the Teen Murti Chowk is presently underway. Let's listening to what's actually happening there. Music. Alright, so that is the ceremony for renaming the Teen Murti Chowk, which will now officially be from henceforth known as the Teen Murti I Thought Chowk, to commemorate the very close ties even historically that India has had in the state of Israel. This of course is the Teen Murti joke, which depicts the three Lancers who were a part of the Indian portion of the undivided India who taken part in the First World War and had retaken the fortified city of Haifa from the Ottoman forces in the year 1918. Animation information if I could come to you on this. You know this of course is extremely significant. The symbolism of renaming such an important chalk in the national capital of India on a city in the state of Israel just goes to show that India and Israel are now very close friends, and we're not shy of this relationship anymore like we used to be once upon a time in the past. Mohammed, this is a very solemn ceremony and we're watching these live visuals of the two premiers. Observe a moment of silence in honor of the Indian soldiers who laid down their lives fighting during World War I, and this ceremony will officially mark the formal renaming of the Team Multi Chalk or Square in the heart of New Delhi as the Thin Multi. Shocked, and we are watching these live visuals of the two premiers. Observing a moment of silence, but just to bring our viewers up to speed with the significance of the monument itself. On the right hand side you can see the monument, the Timur Sea monument, which has three bronze statues representing the Hyderabad Shortcoat and Mysore Lancers were part of the 15 Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade, and they fought on the 23rd of September 1918 at Haifa during the First World War. And just by way of additional information, Mohammed's an Indian officer who laid down his life in the same battle was Captain Aman Bahadur, whose grandson later served as a brigadier in the Indian Army. Music. So there we saw the two premiers observe a moment of silence in honor of the fallen Indian soldiers during the First World War at Haifa, and now they will sign in the visitors book, and this ceremony will officially mark the formal renaming of the Team Multi Chalk as the Teen Murti. Shocked, and just by we have additional information for the viewers. There are various accounts of this battle, all narrate the brave valor with which the Lancers undertook the assault on the garrison town protected by a joint force of Ottomans, Germany and Austria-Hungary. The capture of Haifa cleared a route for the Allied supply the city through DC, and 44 Indian soldiers had made the ultimate sacrifice during the liberation of the city in World War I. Until date, the 61 Cavalry celebrates 23rd September at its Raising Day or Haifa Day. Music. So that was the Israeli Prime Minister and his wife Sarah, the signing in the visitors book, and alternate Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, their signing in the visitors book. After that they moved the Haifa Chalk as it has not been officially rechristened, and also Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to Twitter some moments after he was received by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi a little while earlier, and I thought we've landed in India. Thank you to my good friend Narendra Modi for the warm welcome. It's a very solid location there, as the Team Multi job has been Navi Christian as the Team Multi Pfeiffer top, pointing out to the historic importance of this particular chalk, which is enough a part legend in so many ways for the historic battle that was fought in the city of Haifa. With the fortified city of Haifa was retaken on the 23rd of September near 1918 in the First World War from the Ottoman forces. Music. So this is a wizard of the Israeli Prime Minister, which comes 6 months after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had visited the State of Israel. The promised motive caused broken protocol and has received his Israeli counterpart at the airport with a very warm hug, and honor that has been given to the former during his visit to the Jewish country by Netanyahu. Now Netanyahu of course is accompanied by a 130-member delegation from various sectors including cyber, agriculture and defense, and about 3 p.m. Netanyahu is also scheduled to meet with India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, and the visiting dignitary on Monday at 10 a.m. will be given a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan tomorrow, which will be followed by a wreath-laying ceremony, the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi, at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this is of course a wizard that is high on symbolism and also in many ways marks a new direction in which the Israel-India ties will go forth from here onwards. And also image, if I could bring you in on this, the fact that India and Israel are increasing their cooperation not just in the field of defense but also in other important sectors like in cyberspace, in agriculture, and in other fields of technology. This of course bodes very well in terms of cooperation between the two nations. Indeed, Mohammed's India and Israel enjoy a multifaceted, multidimensional bilateral relationship which straddles areas such as defense, security, homeland security, in particular cyber security, as well culture, tourism, innovation and startups, science and technology, research and development, you name it. I mean, the India-Israel ties